Hi, I'm Old Norse specialist Dr. Jackson Crawford. I teach at the University of Colorado in Old Norse language, myth, and related subjects, previously at UC Berkeley and UCLA, and I'm the Old Norse language consultant on American Gods Season 2. The classic image of the god Odin includes his spear Gungnir. We read in classic descriptions of him in such places as the saga of the Volsungs that he is a man með síðan hot og heklu blå. Han hafði eitt auga og geir í hendi. He is a man with a wide-brimmed hat and a blue hooded cloak. He has one eye and a spear in hand. Now the spear's name, Gungnir, may be related to the modern Swedish word att gunga, which means to rock. You gungar a vagga, a cradle in Swedish, and a boat, gungar, on the waves. So the spear then is the shaker, the rocker, which of course makes sense as one of the threatening things you can do with a spear in an ancient or medieval warfare situation is shake it at your enemy. The name of the spear is attested already in the earliest datable works of Old Norse literature, the poems of Bragi Bodason from the early 800s, where he calls Odin Gungnis Vavadr, the waver or shaker of Gungnir, alluding to that very action. Odin is, of course, strongly associated with this spear, but its name is not typically included in places where it is mentioned in Old Norse literature. So it's not actually named very often in the Poetic Edda, the main manuscript in which the poems of the Norse gods that were passed down orally from the Viking Age were written down in early medieval Iceland. The only poem I can think of in which Gungnir is mentioned in the Poetic Edda by name is actually in Sigurdrivumál, where the Valkyrie Sigurdriva, or Brynhildr, tells the hero Sigurdur that among the places where runes were carved early in time were O Gungnis Oddi, on the spear point of Gungnir. They were also carved, she says, on many other things, including the beaks of owls and O Sleipnis Tonum, on the teeth of Sleipnir, Odin's horse. But of course the spear itself, even with when its name isn't mentioned, is mentioned in association with Odin several times. In Völuspá, at the beginning of the first war, Odin throws his spear over the enemy army. And of course in the poem Hávamál, where Odin sacrifices himself to himself, he is speared with a spear. He says, Geiri undadr og gefin Odni, wounded by a spear and given to Odin, and that is presumably, of course, his own spear, Gungnir. He loans his spear to a human hero on one occasion in the poem Helgakviða Hundingsbana II in the Poetic Edda. Dagr, we are told, blótaði Odin, worshipped Odin or made sacrifices to him, and then Odin leði dag geirs síns. He loaned Dagr his spear. And then, of course, Dagr uses that to avenge his father on Helgi, his father's killer. In a very interesting short story, if you will, or short saga, Styrbjarnar þáttr, short saga of Styrbjorn, we read that a man named Eiríkur, who was a king who had fallen in some hard times, was a big worshipper of Odin, blótaði Odin, who worshipped Odin or made sacrifice to him, gafsk honum, gave himself to him, similar language as we see in Hávamál when Odin sacrifices himself to himself, he is given to Odin. And then a man matching Odin's description appears and gives him a reed which he tells him to throw over his enemy army. When Eiríkur goes into battle and does so, that reed turns into a spear, and he says what the man told him to say, of course the man being Odin, which is, Odin ó yður alla, Odin owns you all. This is very reminiscent of a scene in Gautreks saga, the saga of Gautreks, where the hero Styrbjarnar is instructed by Odin to sacrifice his king Vikar to Odin. Actually, Odin says, Þó skaltu nú senda mér Vikar konung, now you will send King Vikar to me. Send is a verb that can have very sinister connotations in Norse. And he gives him a spear which looks like a reed to other men, and when Styrbjarnar throws the spear at King Vikar, what looks like a reed, it turns into a spear and it actually does kill him. And he says in that occasion, Nú gevek thik Odni. Now I give you to Odin. Gungnir apparently has a special power. It was created by the Dvergar, dwarves, or svartolvar, black elves. These are apparently the same thing, named Ivaldi's sons. We don't actually know the names of the sons, just of their father. The same dwarves who created the ship named Styrbjarnar, which can be folded up and put in a pocket and always has a favorable wind, as well as the golden head of hair for Sif, Thor's wife. Gungnir, we are told in Snorri Sturluson's Prose Edda, nam aldri staðar í lagi, which means never stopped in its thrust. This is presented as its special power. Some people interpret this as meaning that it hits whatever it's aimed at. It may instead mean that nothing can stop it once it's been thrown. So if I throw it perhaps at a man a good distance from me, even if something else would seemingly come between it, it will still hit what it's aimed at. But it's not completely clear what we ought to read out of that phrase, nam aldri staðar í lagi, never stopped in its thrust. We know that Odin will be carrying the spear when he goes to his final battle against Fenrir at Ragnarok. At least Snorri Sturluson's Prose Edda says that. And of course, Odin will be killed on that occasion by Fenrir, which inspires the great anxiety that he feels about Ragnarok, inspiring his harvesting of human heroes during the age in which we live down here on Midgardr, the middle enclosure, our world. I hope that if you're interested in Norse mythology and other related subjects, that you'll look at my more than 280 other videos on this channel about many topics in Norse mythology, including quite a few that have covered Odin and aspects of that god and the Old Norse literature about him. I've also translated the Poetic Edda, the manuscript that I alluded to that has many of these poems in it. And forthcoming is my translation of the Hávamál, called the Wanderer's Hávamál, which also includes the Old Norse text with my commentary. Of course, my English translation of Hávamál is already included in the Poetic Edda, but this will include quite a bit more apparatus for understanding that poem, as well as a slightly revised text. My videos are supported by my generous Patreon supporters, all 1,000 of whom I'd like to thank. And from beautiful Colorado, let me wish you all the best.